All right, I am sipping on some awesome Squatch coffee, Sasquatch coffee, that is. And real quick before we get going, I want to give a shout out to just a few people here. First off, the winner of this month's giveaway. I just gave you guys a shout out. It is Russ and his son. I wanted to give you guys a shout out, let you guys know that your stuff is on the way. And just want to say thank you guys so very much for being such fans of the old PacWest here. As a matter of fact, some of my other fans, Fishing Sir, SIR, there. You can find them over on Amazon. They got some, I don't know about you guys, but I'm a total fly fisherman. I love fly fishing. They got some great fishing supplies. FolkloreSupply.com, they are awesome. Sasquatch Coffee Company, Gunner over there. As a matter of fact, Gunner's got his own great, awesome little, I guess you would say Bigfoot. Show as well. It's called Monster X Radio. That's pretty awesome. Also, a good friend Bono out there. You guys know Bono. He's that awesome. So there you go. So I want to give a shout out to those guys. And if you want to get on here and get a chance to win every single month on the 10th of every month, I'd like to give a little something out there from the mypacwestbigfoot.com store. So there you go. I'm going to clear my throat right in your earball, and guess what? We're going to go ahead and we're going to get into this week's PacWest Bigfoot encounter story. So give me 1 second to get a sip of this old Sasquatch coffee. Clear my throat. Let's get going. Turkey hunter in NorCal gets more than he calls for when Bigfoot shows up. I do not live in California anymore, but back in 1980, while out turkey hunting in the northern part of the state, actually just east of Shasta City, I was harassed, to say the least, by a turkey hunting Bigfoot. This visual lasted mere seconds, but the experience, looking back on that day, well, it seemed to me there were lots of warning signs I should have paid attention to tell me that something strange was afoot. Here's my story. Moving to Monsterville. I was a bird hunter enthusiast from the Midwest before I relocated to the crazy state of California. I have not lived there for over a decade now, and no, it was not due to my incident with Bigfoot for relocating. I simply could not afford the state itself. Between high taxes and nutty politicians, I moved. Idaho was the place for me eventually. But during the late part of 1979, I moved out west to a small town named Dunsmuir, California, where I worked for the school district in Shasta City for about 5 years. That is as far as I'll go with the reason that led me up to the encounter, other than, as I said, I love hunting bird, from pheasant to grouse to larger-than-life turkey, which is my favorite. My wife and our 3 children loved having wild turkey on the table, then store-bought, even today. By the way, I still love hunting bird in Idaho. Being from the Midwest, I never heard anything about Bigfoot. You do now, but before the internet, I never heard anything. If it were not for the film out in Northern California in the late 60s, well, I would have never heard of the thing, period. But I do now, and these things are just crazy, scary, massively huge, can be rather dangerous and unpredictable, I believe. Here's what happened while I was turkey hunting and what I saw with my own eyes. Making a turkey call. Before the family and I moved out west, bird hunting was already a passion of mine. My father passed on this passion and hobby to me, I guess you could say. Recently, up to the encounter, I was making my very own unique turkey calls. As a matter of fact, I created a few popular ones that are now sold through large outdoor retail stores around the country. I know we think of turkey hunting as something you might find in some other, more, well, to be honest, conservative state, but that is not true. California, especially Northern California, is a thriving bird hunting community. And to my surprise, when I moved there. Just so you know, before I moved here to work, I did look at the laws and other regulations around the sport before making my decision. Today, I might not have made the same decision with all the craziness there. That was why I moved to Idaho only 5 years later. Anyways, back to the story. I'd already started to work with the local school district when hunting season got underway. And yes, I started a bit with quail first, but by November 11th, I was out the door and getting some turkey hunting done. Back then, you could bag a few, and that is what my goal was. I have to say, week one I already had two, and I was amazed at how huge the turkey could grow naturally out here in the Pacific Northwest. Call me what you will, but my bottom dollar was on the Midwest, or northern parts of the country for turkey as big as I was seeing. This the week before Thanksgiving, and things became frightening and downright crazy, however. My location at the time, I remember, was east of Mount Shasta itself, about 20 minutes east. Somewhere up Ash Creek, I believe. It was a Saturday, early morning, and I was in no hurry to fill my tags at all. I wanted to get the most of the day and enjoying the last bit of turkey hunting for the year. I love being out in the wilds, then and now, even after seeing a monster. I was near the creek, and at the time of year it was in full force, so the rush of water could be heard loud and clear, but so could other sounds like clicking. It was the weirdest thing I'd ever heard while out in the woods, anywhere, here or the Midwest. But clicking was something you simply did not hear out here. It is unnatural, I guess you could say. But I could plainly hear a clicking sound coming from about 20 or so yards in back of me. Now the land here is rolling hills, mountains, and throw in some flat, lightly wooded areas, making it difficult to see too far in any direction. This is higher elevation, but still within the edge of being heavily wooded. Maybe not like the lower areas, but enough to cut down visibility quite a bit. I kept looking around, thinking that some other turkey hunter was around and was using some, well, personally speaking, ridiculous new turkey call. I decided to let them know I was close by and let out a somewhat loud cough. Nobody answered back. The only thing I heard once again was a clicking sound. It just sounded odd. That is what caught my attention in the first place. But nobody answered, and the clicking every few moments or so continued. It sounded like rocks clicking together, or tongue-in-cheek maybe. It was a minute more later that I noticed the clicking sound was on the move. Still unsure of what it was, I gave it up to something that was at least non-threatening. Yet I decided to move on down the way about 100 yards or so. Finally, settling down just as the sun was starting to warm up that frosty fall morning, the clicking did stop, or I was out of earshot finally. I broke out my new call and started away making turkey call, bringing them in closer to the makeshift blind I made out of some large old branches that were left behind during the last spring rains and snow melt. It was 10 minutes or so later, I was getting a response. I could hear what seemed to be a few or more turkey that I thought was around, and eventually I could see them working their way through the underbrush around a bunch of trees. Crap, I thought. The clicking was back all of a sudden. Yeah, that was coffee. This time I could hear what sounded like walking and mumbling too from the southeast of my then current position. I did not want to cough this time and possibly scare off the turkey, as they were then strutting and walking around about 20 to 30 yards in front of me. All I needed them to do was to step out into the clearing, and I could get my last one for the season. However, with the possibility of someone out here walking around trying to get the same turkey I was, well, I did not want to become or create a statistic out here. I lowered my gun and kept listening. The turkeys stopped, all of them, and one started spreading his feathers. That is when I listened to the sound, to what sounded like a lion growling nearby and getting ready to pounce on some bird, my bird. The beast of the mountain. The sound was quite mesmerizing. I mean, I felt compelled just to stand there and do nothing. I could feel it too, like a low vibrating rumble going right through me. I'm not sure about all that hocus pocus some attribute to this wild animal, but a growl can paralyze you if you let it. I felt almost paralyzed there for a few seconds myself. I also felt as though I should not move, and quickly I should not move, or I might be in some trouble sooner or later. The turkeys were as still as trees, which is weird knowing the turkey are very skittish and run off at the slightest fart in the wind. But not this time. The growling had them staring off as if mesmerized themselves into oblivion. So the next thing I heard was a voice. The mumbling was back, but this came from opposite the growling side of the small open area. Step, step, then running is what I heard all of a sudden. Suddenly from the north side of the area, out came a 5 to 6 foot hairy person running like the wind. It got to those turkeys so fast I thought I was staring at some dark misty ghost-like figure in the shape of a person. It grabbed 3 turkey and immediately started slamming their heads against a nearby tree. And yet through all of this, the other turkeys still stood there, never moving. Finally, the growling stopped, and then the turkey started flying around like lunatics trying to escape Arkham. But 2 were caught by a much larger figure that came from the south side of the clearing and squeezed the life out of them until their eyeballs and heads practically popped off. The 2 Bigfoots stood there, then squatted as they began to tear into the turkey, eating them. I will admit that I felt like peeing my pants, I was so scared. The smaller one, solid black, it looked to be female. I swear I noticed breasts, and it squatted there, eating the whole turkey. Well, everything but the feet it tore off seconds later. But these were Bigfoot I was staring at. The larger one, a female, for sure, was more chocolate in color, dark chocolate for that matter. I could see its monkey-like face really well and its large block teeth that had canines the size of small fingers towards the back for sure when she opened her mouth. While the mouth seemed small when closed, it was scary and crazy to see how wide and huge they could be when they opened them. They were squatted, eating, and always turning from the upper torso up to look around at their position here and there. I had a feeling it was just them, but I also had a feeling I should not move a single step still. My gut was screaming at me too, sit still, but my mind was saying, run. Amazing Grace and turkey. I have to say, I'm not sure about the human-like appearance of these things other than arms and legs. The faces were seriously much like a gorilla. Well, I guess the nose was a little less like a monkey of some kind, I suppose, but the rest of it was pure ape-like features. Their arms were massive and long. These things were literally within 20 or so yards of me, and I could make out just about everything about them, even their dark, pitch-black eyes and heavy brow lines. I've seen the Patterson-Gimlin film, and have to say that was pretty spot on to the bulk of monstrous bodies I was looking at. Even what I could tell of their gait was spot on, I would come to notice. It did not take them long to devour a few of the turkey. As they finished them, they would toss what they did not eat down. Finally, after about 2 to 3 minutes, they stood up and walked over to the thicket of trees. I could not believe my eyes. The larger one reached up in a tree and pulled down what looked like a baby one. Well, at least what we might consider a baby or toddler from a bottom limb. It handed it a chunk of the turkey it still held, and this thing started ravaging it. At that moment I realized I was standing up, plain to see, and that is when the smaller one that was in the clearing saw me and charged. I pumped the shotgun and fired in the air out of pure fear and reflex. It stopped. The female with her young was already gone, I realized, and this one lets out a scream in my direction that hit me hard. I thought I was going to pass out. It stopped, however, turned, and ran off, that weird, fast gait. So did I, and in the opposite direction. I told my wife, and since then told my kids, who, of course, think I'm a little off my rocker about the whole thing. Either way, I still hunt in the wilds of Idaho today. No, I do not wish for another encounter, nor do I want to be scrutinized about it, so I leave it to you once and for all here on the PWB. Thanks for letting me share, Dave. God bless. Charlie.